Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. I've got a Necrons video for you today. I don't know how many videos I've done today because I'm going away during Easter, so I'm trying to get as many videos filmed as I possibly can just to keep me running. Otherwise we're going to have no content on the channel. So I did another Rate It or Hate It video. Well, I'm about to film another Rate It or Hate It video, and I'm going to be doing the Tesseract Vault. Now not everybody owns the Vault. I don't actually own the Vault. When I got my box, I actually glued mine up as an obelisk. This was 9th edition, where I actually thought the obelisk was quite good. A few of you disagreed. A few of you I managed to turn and you realise actually it was really good. But anyway, I'm waffling already. Today we're talking about the Tesseract Bolt. Like I said, I don't own one. I don't really play with them. I can't say I've actually played with one in 10th edition, so this video is a bit more theory based. Not going to lie to you. I'd rather let you know up front because I don't want to explain all these experiences that I've had when I actually haven't. So you'll have to bear with me on that. Right, so Tesseract Bolt, we're going to rate it or hate it. We're going to go through what I would presume would be my tactics theoretically. We're going to do my combinations, I suppose, and we're going to do some comparisons as well. And then I'm going to rate it or hate it at the end of the video. But before all that, we're going to be doing the data card, going through it. And before all that, I'm going to plug a little plug. Yeah, we'll go with that. Plug a little plug. If you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, do so down. The link will be down below. I'm still putting out, not daily, but photos here and there of my battle reports or up and coming battle reports with the maps. You might have seen, for those of you that saw last, well, by the time you see this video, this will be probably last week. But I just brought myself some orcs, so you're probably thinking, what? Orcs? But you'd only know that if you're on the Planet 40k Facebook group. So yeah, join if you can, please. Obviously it's free, just like it is on YouTube as well. Anyway, let's get all the plugs out and get into this data card. So the Tesseract Bolts. Let's talk about the Tesseract Bolt. Let me get the data card up. That would actually help, wouldn't it? 400 points. Where are we? 400 points. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. So we're going to need to find a way to make its points back in this video, really, because yeah, that's a lot. That's a huge amount. We've got the vehicle keyword. It's Titanic. It's got fly, although fly is kind of stinky this edition, especially on a model this size. And it's got towering though. Towering, you can see past ruins and stuff as if they weren't there. So let's go through these statistics and then have a little discussion about it. So it's got a movement of 8 inches. That's great if you could move the damn thing. The thing is huge. I don't know if you've ever seen one. I have actually seen one. They're massive. They're massive. And the amount of terrain we've got in 10th edition makes it, well, I'd imagine makes it extremely difficult to move around. So, yeah. Movement of 8, if you can. Toughness 12. Beautiful. Can't complain with that. 2+ armor, 4+ invulnerable save. Can't complain with that either. 24 wounds on top of that. That's nice, especially with the toughness 12 and a 4+ invulnerable save. I mean, going back to that save, 2+, 4+, that means it's only really -3 AP weapons that go to the invuln save, because -2 would just be a 4+ armor save anyway. So the higher damage, the higher AP stuff, sorry, -3, -4, -5, and so on, they still go on the invuln save, which is nice. So even the -1 stuff just gives you a 3+ armor save. So it's very resilient. Leadership 7+, and OC is 8, which is nice. So if you can deploy it onto an objective, brilliant. OC 8, although the OC does go down when you're below 8 wounds, it goes down to 4 OC, and you can only select one of the Catan powers, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Ability wise, we've got Deadly Demise D6 +3, so this is a massive explosion. You don't want your models near it. You don't want your stuff near it because it will go down. Minimum of 4 mortal wounds if it does get destroyed, and you do roll a 6 to destroy it. Yeah, 4. That's big. We've got reanimation protocols. Nice. And powers of the Catan. So this one is vital. This is really key, so you're going to have to listen carefully because there's a lot to unpack here. So powers of the Catan, in your shooting phase. That's the very important line there. In your shooting phase. Not in your opponent's movement phase, because you can't do Overwatch, for example. It's not in your opponent's charge phase, because you can't do it. It's purely just your shooting phase. When this model is selected to shoot, you first select up to 2 different Catan powers from the Catan powers list, we'll show you in a moment. And until the end of the phase, this model is equipped with those weapons in addition to other weapons that you've got, which would be your Tesla Spheres or your Armoured Bulk if you're using that. So you're going to be picking 2 out of 3 of the powers, and we're going to go through them in quite a bit of detail in a moment. In fact, let's do that now. So let's start with the Tesla Spheres. That's the easy one. You've always got them. You're equipped with them. Those can actually do Overwatch. So you can do Overwatch, but just with the Tesla Spheres. They've got sustain hits too, which is good, especially when you're hitting on 3s, which you can see on the screen. When you hit on 3s with sustain hits too, it means you, on average, get all your hits. On average, because all the 1s and 2s miss, but any 6s will give you 2 more back. So that's how it roughly works. So you've got 4 of these. You've got 4 Tesla Spheres here, so you're going to have a total of 24 shots at 24-inch range. Hitting on 3s, but sustain hits too, so on average 24 hits. Now they're strength 7, and there's no AP and 1 damage. Now with the Tesla Spheres, you're wounding most infantry units on 3s, maybe even 2s on the smaller stuff. Now if you're talking about guardsmen, then you're looking at about 13 that die after all said and done. Which, I mean, guardsmen, as an example, that would be 96 points if it was guardsmen. If you're talking about intercessors, Space Marine intercessors, it's about 2.5 that will die, so you're looking at about 40 points, give or take. And that's per shooting phase, and that's just as Tesla Spheres alone. So if you're going up against guardsmen, nearly 100 points there, just from 1 weapon, well, 4 weapons, one profile on its own. Now, of course, this doesn't include the benefits of cover or any abilities like, invulnerable saves maybe, or feel no pain saves. I'm not including any of that stuff. That's more advanced. Just bog standard, 96 points worth of guardsmen, 40 points worth of intercessors. Now, the Catan powers, they're a little bit more trickier to work out. I'm going to go through all 3 of them and tell you what they roughly do, and then I'll explain what I think are the best options some of the times. So the Antimatter Meteor has Blast, great, so for every 5 models in the unit you get an extra shot, and so on. Dev Wounds, in fact all 3 of these have Dev Wounds, so just get that as a standard in your head now. Dev Wounds is there for these Catan powers. Indirect Fire, we need Indirect Fire, you should pretty much see this as a big model, can see over ruins, probably don't need Indirect Fire. You've got 24-inch range again, D6 plus 3 attacks. So what's that as an average? Like 6, 7 maybe as an average. You can get it up to 9, but you can just roll a 1 and get 4. Hitting on 3s, strength 10, minus 3 AP and 3 damage. Now that is going to be it's going to be pretty useful against certain units. We'll talk about them in a moment, but maybe it's like Terminators or something without the Storm Shields. Maybe it's just Terminators with Lightning Claws. We'll come back to some maths in a moment. Let me just continue on with the rest of these Catan powers. We've got the Cosmic Fire Catan power. This ignores cover, so cover doesn't come into play here. Dev Wounds again, and it's a torrent. Only 18-inch range though, so you will need to try and move this thing or wait for units to come by. 3d6 amount of shot, so what's that as an average? Like 10 or 11, something around there. Auto hitting, strength 6, minus 2 AP, 1 damage. So going up against the power armor kind of stuff, you're wounded on 3s, putting them on a 5 plus armor save, because it's minus 2. And the gaunts, you're wounded on 2s and they don't get any save, because the 5 plus armor just goes out the window. You then come to the Times Arrow, which I think is the most interesting out of the lot of them, although you're only going to use it in certain situations. Anti-character 4 plus with Devastating Wounds. So as soon as you roll a 4 plus to wound against any character, it could be a Bloodthirster, it could be the Silent King, it could be a little lone Technomancer, an Apothecary, and so on. Any 4 plus goes to Dev Wounds. No save, no invulnerable save, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's got precision as well, which is the key part here, because you want to be firing at a character hidden within the unit. So again, I'm going to use like a Necron unit as an example, because you know Necrons, if you've got like an Overlord hidden with, I don't know, imitate the Stormlord in fact. He's hidden within some Immortals, you shoot the Times Arrow at that unit, it's got precision so it can go straight onto Imitech. You're going to be hitting on, it's only 1 shot, but you're going to be hit on 2s. And if you get a 4 plus to wound, then it's 6 damage. Now I can't remember off the top of my head how many wounds Imitech has actually got. I'm going to have a quick look while I'm here. Immotech, there he is. He's got 6 wounds. So he'd in fact just be dead, just like that. Bang. He's dead. Dead. I don't know why there's AP. I suppose if you don't fire at a character, you'll need the strength and AP. But you wouldn't select it. You would just, I suppose, maybe if there's nothing in range with the Cosmic Fire. But yeah, that's what that's used for. You're picking out a character, 6 damage, bang, done. Now let's talk about that in a bit more detail. Antimatter Meteor versus a unit of Terminators with the Lightning Claws. With Blast, you're going to get an additional shot. So really it's D6 plus 4 because of Blast. You'll be wounded on 2s because you're strength 10 going up against toughness 5. And you've got Dead Wounds. Any Dead Wounds will ignore their 4+ invulnerable save, which is good. So you're going to get an average between 2 and 3 Terminators that go down. They're 39 points a model. So 39 points a model when you kill 2 or 3, that's between 78 points and 117 points removed in this particular situation. Of course, the unit might be a different unit, but in the situation or example I'm giving you now, it's about 78 to 117 points gone. So you can add that to the Tesseract that we already did earlier. Now the Cosmic Fire power has the torrent, so if you go up against some Termagants from the Tyrannid's Codex, you're going to get about 10 or 11 hits because they're auto hitting, you're wounded on 2s. The Dead Wounds won't really matter here because the -2 AP is enough to kill them anyway. You're looking at about 9 dead Termagants, which is about 54 points worth of gaunts. Then the Times Arrow on a character leading a unit, so that's... The toughness doesn't actually make any difference because the 4+ roll will just do the job. It could be toughness bazillion, it doesn't matter. Anti-character 4+, done. So you could even fire at the Silent King. You could just chuck 6 damage on the Silent King if you want. Takes out a Trichomania. But you're hitting on 2s, you're wounded on 4s. The 4+ will become a devastating wound. Goes through the invuln saves. And I mean, a flat 6 damage, that will kill a Cryptek, it'll kill Imatech as we've just mentioned. I mean, the Crypteks are about 60 points, Imatech's 100 points. It could be a Space Marine Captain or a Broodlord, they're about 80 points. We just mentioned the Trichomania, I don't know how many points that would be on its own. It could be an Orc Beast Boss, that's 100 points. A Tau Commander Farsight, that's 90 points. All gone, just from one single shot in one single shooting phase. Now we don't get to obviously use all 3 of those time powers, you only get to use 2, unless you're 8 wounds or less, then it's only 1. Let's just presume you are, let's say 20 wounds, and you're using 2 of them. If I had all 3 targets available, I would opt to not use the Cosmic Fire power, the Torrent one. I'd rather go for a leader, and I'd rather do the damage 3 weapon, because I can still use the Tesla Spheres as my anti-light infantry weapon. Now this would mean if I use that combination and I didn't bother with the Cosmic Fire, I use the Antimatter Meteor, the Tesla Spheres obviously, and the Times Arrow, this is what it would do in terms of points. It will in fact be, let me work this out, you're looking at about between 170 points and 320 points. Obviously that depends on the faction and depends on the units, but as a rough guide, I mean you could call it 200 points. I'll call that 200 points, which is exactly half of what the cost of the Tesseract Bolt actually is. So if you can get 2 turns of shooting with this Bolt at full range, it's getting its points back instantly. And let's remember, this model has toughness 12, 2+ armor, 4+ invulnerable save, 24 wounds. It's going to take a hell of a lot to get rid of it. In the meantime, while it's not destroyed, it's going to be shooting, and it's got 8 OC. It's actually not bad, it's actually not bad. Now let's move into the tactics a minute then. I mean, we spoke quite heavily in terms of the weapons, about what I would select and how I'd select them and where and what and maps and all that stuff. But in terms of deployment, there's 2 things you can do here. Option A, you would deploy it on your home deployment marker, objective marker. If you can, obviously terrain permitting, because it's a huge model. If you can, you could stick 8 OC on it and it's going to survive for quite a fair amount of time. Unless you're going up against a really shooty army, Astra Militarum, Tau, and they just shoot the crap out of it. Then it becomes a different game. But you can park it there if you want, and then maybe you can make a break for the No Man's Land, again, if you can move it. If you can't move it, you're going to be staying still for pretty much the entire game. But if you can move it, you want to move the OC to the No Man's Land. Option number 2, I think, would be to not put it on the home objective and put it to one, not necessarily a flank, but just to the side. Because if it's a target anyway, your opponent is going to maybe kill it anyway, within, maybe 2 turns, 3 turns or whatever. It means your opponent isn't targeting the units that are on the objectives in the no man's land or in the home objective area. So they're going to be scoring you points potentially, depending on your primaries, depending on your secondaries even. So they're doing all their shooting, trying to get rid of the Tesseract Vault, but it has nothing really to do with the actual points, because in terms of points, it's not primary points anyway, it's not really scoring them, it's just sitting there. I mean, secondary wise, okay, it can do things like no prisoners, bring it down and so on, it can do killing kind of secondaries, but that's not about the primaries and the objectives. So you've got two ways of looking at that in theory of how you can deploy it. If you can move it, I would. You want to get as much range or threat range as you can, especially as one of the Catan powers is only 18-inch range, so you want to be moving it to the central area if possible. And you want to start off with the times arrow as early as you can and be using it until you've eliminated all the characters. Just keep using it. It's 6 damage. Of course, if there's no character available or within range, you don't use it at all. So it's only, what was it? Only strength 3, was it? It's strength 3 minus 2 AP with 1 shot. And you're only going to get the anti-character 4+ against characters, so it becomes completely redundant when there's no characters. So then you would use the torrent, but that's only 18-inch range, so you do need to get this closer to enemy units where possible. The anti-matter meteor should be used in every single turn that it's available. That's the best weapon in my opinion to be using. There's no choice there. The choice is always between the torrent and the times arrow. Cosmic fire and the times arrow. Now detachment wise, it's only really the Awakened Dynasty. I mean, maybe you can talk about the Obeisance Phalanx, but I'll talk about the Awakened Dynasty first. Let's go through that first. You've got the +1 to hit enhancement, which is the Phasal Subjugator. So you can have a little character nearby within 6 inches and gives the entire Tesseract Bolt's weaponry a +1 to hit. Now that's not going to apply to the Cosmic Fire, and it's not going to apply to the times arrow unless there's a negative modifier, because that hits on 2s. But the torrent auto hits. So it's only really applying to the Tesla Spheres and the Antimatter Meteor. But still, it's not bad at all, is it? You've got the Command Protocol of Conquering Tyrant to be able to reroll hit rolls of 1 at half range. Could be something, all those misses that you keep doing. I mean, maybe you can pair them together, in fact. If you've got the Phasal Subjugator and you're hitting on 2s and you're rerolling 1s at half range, you're barely missing. Then, if you look at the Obeisance Phalanx, there's only really the one stratagem there, which is the Nano Assembly Protocols for the -1 to damage. Normally saved for your Silent King, but it's a vehicle. You can use it on this vault. Now, comparison-wise, this one's really difficult. I'm not going to lie, it's quite difficult to compare a Tesseract Vault, 400 points. So I've gone for some of the big options here. The Silent King, 420 points, so it's 20 points more. It also does its stuff at range. It's got 2 more wounds overall, because when you add the Trichomonaires, it's got 26. It's got the same OC with OC 8, but only toughness 10, not 12. It's also got extra value though in melee, and also buffs friendlies around him. So I think it kind of depends on if you're going with the Obeisance Phalanx or not. I don't really use Silent King that often at the moment, so it's hard for me to work out a really good comparison there. The Obelisk is another one, 325 points, so 75 points cheaper. It's Titanic, it's carrying the Tesla Spheres, except that the Obelisk Tesla Spheres are actually slightly better because they've got anti-fly 4+. So anything that can fly, you just need to wound on a 4. Doesn't matter how big it is, how tough it is, 4+ is enough. It's got the ability to slow enemy units, and if they've got fly, on a 4+, they suffer D3 mortal wounds, D3 mortal wounds, for any movement they do. So that's your movement, your advancing, your charge move, your piling move, your consolidation move, any type of movement, you could roll a 4+ and make them suffer D3 more wounds. That really starts to stack up. Toughness 13, not 12 as well, so slightly tougher. Doesn't have an invuln though. 2+ armor, no invuln, so it really does solely rely on that 2+. Then lastly, there's the Monolith, 350 points, so 50 points less. It's got the 4 Death Rays, which are obviously a nice damage dealer, as well as the Particle Whip. It's got a lot of other tricks though, which the Tesseract Bolt is not going to have, like the Eternity Gate or using stratagems from the Hypercrypt Legion. I think the Monolith is a bit more usable, user-friendly as well, in fact. Again, no invulnerable save, although there is the stratagem to put one on in the Hypercrypt Legion, and it only has 22 wounds, not 24. Right, let's get on to the rate it or hate it section. This one is interesting because I keep I keep changing my mind. When I was going through those weapons, I was like, wow, 200 points worth of damage each turn. That's really strong. Let's go through some pros and cons before I sort of decide on the fly here. So pros, there's a massive damage output each turn. Only needs a couple of turns to break even. It's pretty flexible with Catan powers, whether it's faction dependent, whether it's simply just units you want removing at that time in that phase. You can change it up turn to turn. Negatives though, you won't be moving it too much due to its size, and you also won't like storing it at home, again due to its size. You're not going to be sticking this on a small shelf, it's just massive. The fly keyword in 10th edition isn't as good on a model like this, especially, well, you can't just like jump onto a ruin now because you can't even overhang your bases anymore. And you've got to do the measurement diagonally as well, so it's fly kind of sucks for a unit like this. You can't be using the Catan powers outside of your own shooting phase, so no Overwatch. And also putting 400 points into one unit is putting all your points into one basket. It's a lot of points, so once it does go down, that's like what, 1/5 of your army if you're playing 2k is just gone. It's just gone. I mean, it's quite hard to find space for something like this. I mean, once you've got your Catan, like your Void Dragon or your Nightbringer, then you've got your Wraiths and Immortals and so on. You've usually got a few hundred points or so to spare, to spend on units for scoring, secondary scoring. Maybe it's Ophidian Destroyers, maybe it's Death Marks, maybe it's Tomb Blades and so on, Scarabs. By the time you've done all that, you're not going to have 400 points spare, so you're going to have to really make your list around a vault, like you would with a Silent King, which is why I don't play the Silent King much either. At 1k, it's going to be hard to fit in, although, to be honest, rethinking that, at 1k, I bet the vault is an absolute nightmare. That's something I really do want to try now. I think I'll be that guy though, that'll be like, get out of the club, you can't be in here doing that. Yeah, at 1k, that's filthy. Probably a bit too overpowered. At 2k, not so much. And yeah, at 2k you're going to have to really sacrifice a large amount of your list. It could be some of your scoring units, well, it will be. It might be your Catan Shard, your Nightbringer, your Void Dragon and so on. You might have to just completely take them away. That could take out a lot of melee output. And just general movement, I suppose, because this thing's too big. But we're getting into the part where I've got to rate or hate it. Now this one's so tricky. It's so tricky. Because everything I've said, I've kind of really liked it as I've gone through this video, I really liked what it can do. And it looks epic. I know it's big and bulky, but it does look epic. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to hate it, but I don't want to hate it, but I'm going to have to, because for 400 points, how many Immortals can you get for 400 points? How many Wraiths can you get for 400 points? How many Locust Heavy Destroyers can you get for 400 points? There's so many cool units that do a lot of damage now that are really important for scoring and stuff and just killing stuff. I mean, Locust Heavies are 50 points. You can get 8 Locust Heavy Destroyers instead of a Tesseract Bolt. That's 400 points. I would rather the Locust Heavy Destroyers. The amount of damage coming out of them, they can move around. I think they're just easier to manage as well, and that's why I'm going to go with hate today. But you guys, you'll have to let me know if you do own one and what are your experiences with it. Have I missed anything, because this is just a theory based video after all? If I have, let me know down in the comments as well, and if you rate it or hate it, also let me know down below.